Base is dropped on another week of soccer down here. Apologies for being a minute late because, once again, I'm sitting here trying to punch buttons and figure out orders and make sure that I don't hit the wrong sequence or anything like that. And I actually got it to function. So John here, Jarrett there for another week, and we've gone from 4-2 in Major League Soccer. So we know what we know what MLS Cup is going to look like. And we also know that we had our fair batch of crazy in the last USL Championship game that knocked things down to the Final Four. Memphis and Tampa Bay lived up to expectations, and it was half-past crazy. So we'll get into that and anything else on your mind because it is a Reaction Monday. And there are a couple of things that I wanted to kind of get into for opening kickoff. Once again, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee. KickoffCoffeeCO.com. There's your QR code for those of you who are watching on Twitch. And use that QR code. Use the code SoccerDownHere15. And you get 15% off of your purchase for Kickoff Coffee. And then, in turn, they take 10% and reinvest it in the youth game. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and KickoffCoffeeCO.com. David, we will definitely get into that. We are definitely going to be getting into cards or a lack thereof and things like that. So we'll be getting into that. But, first and foremost, I guess we should offer congratulations to Rich and Bam for their teams making it into the last game of the year for MLS Cup. But, Jarrett, what I wanted to get into to start things off this morning was tonight. Tonight, it is the evening where we've all gone out, at least I think a lot of us have gone out, and purchased 275 pieces of candy, being overly optimistic about how many folks are going to come knocking on our doors and what will actually be leaving our houses once folks come up and knock on the door and they sit there and they say those three magic words, one of them being a conjunction. So we could probably go down a couple of different roads here this morning when it comes to Halloween candy, this kind of thing. Is there when you and Katie buy Halloween candy, do you buy your Halloween candy knowing that you are going to hoard a particular one and you stash it, and then those who knock on the door get the rest? Do you sit there and make your purchase looking in one direction, looking out for yourself post-Halloween, or are you completely and totally the most selfless people on the planet and are looking out for just those folks that knock on your door and you'll take whatever's left?
Well, see, here's the problem with that. I have a 5-year-old who is aware that this purchase is happening, so we have to ration some of it off to the side for her, even though she knows she's going to get candy when we go trick-or-treating. She still has special requests. The premium of it being she and I, but not her mother, are connoisseurs of candy corn and all things candy corn.
See, I can't do that. Nope. This is where this hot take we are going to completely and totally separate ourselves.
Yeah, the child and I are very pro candy corn, so we can just set that off to the side. That's ours. Nobody has to fight us over that. It's great. It's good life. The rest of it, they actually did this the other day when I was gone. They basically filled up little bags with an assortment of candies and just going to set it on the steps because we're going to go trick-or-treating elsewhere and visit family. So we set it out on the steps so people can come up, grab a bag, and carry on with their day. Coco buys a separate bag for himself. Yeah.
As should, Coco.
As you should. This is about living your best life, and you should make those decisions. But yeah, we generally, most of it's going to go back to trick-or-treating. I'm not as big into sweets as I was when I was younger. But I'll keep a couple of them here or there, and then kind of just go after them over the next month or change. Man, yeah, the real trick is negotiating with the child about what is allowed to be consumed now and what is allowed to be consumed later.
Yes.
Advent calendars also present a very similar situation in December, not because of any reverence she has for Christmas or the holiday season in general, but because if there's an Advent calendar, there's something inside of it every day. So
Hmm. Yeah, and
it's
see,
not the spirit of the season; it's the treat inside
I was going to
because
say
kids are kids.
it is the absolute candy that is attached, and it just so happens that the season is the interloper. The calendar is
The
the
season is what when you're a kid, the season is what you generally tolerate because that is the bog you have to trek through to get to the other side here.
hmm and I will pull back the curtain here for us because we have we have obviously this is Rowdy's first Halloween, and the way that peaks are wired, the second that the doorbell goes, he'll go in complete and total protect mode, and that is how peaks are. And so, literally, one of us has to be at the bottom of the stairs to give out said candy, and the other has to be at the top of the stairs to make sure that when the door opens, a peak does not go full board. Ross Chastain turns 3 and 4 in Martinsville down the stairs and out the door to protect the house. So that's what we have to kind of prevent against. But what the boss does here, she has already pulled all of the Reese's and has put them in the freezer. This was a selfless move by her for me. She's like, I bought these. I've pulled the Reese's. I've put them in the freezer. Whoever comes to the
I was
door is
about to say, please tell me you put them in the freezer, which is where they belong.
Of course. Yeah, we have an entire
Oh
we
God.
almost have an entire freezer of Reese's of varying degrees because we have the Reese's pumpkins and the normal Reese's and the Easter eggs that have been carryovers from that particular holiday. So from each particular holiday that has gone past in the calendar, we still have Reese's leftovers that are attached to them. So
This
uh,
is and the thing is the trick is you take the Reese's pumpkin and you hang on to it and you eat it at Christmas time
oh yeah,
just to try and unmake the universe. This is not dissimilar from when I worked with the Braves, and they would occasionally bring us like if they had extra Chick-fil-A sandwiches, they would bring us Chick-fil-A sandwiches. It
there you
generally
go.
happened at Saturday games for some reason,
Mhm.
and we would take them on a Saturday night. I would eat one. There would always be a couple extra, and then I would take one and put it in the fridge and keep it so that when I had to come in and work a day game the next day,
Yeah.
I could pop it in the microwave and then
Mhm.
eat Chick-fil-A on a Sunday afternoon just to thumb my nose at Truett Cathy's existence.
See, there you go. And Coco, as a part of this, Coco tomorrow will be making a trip to
Yep.
Sam's Club to partake in National Discount Candy Day.
This is
That's the
this is
plan.
correct. My daughter asked me last night that can we go get can we go get candy corn because we didn't have much at the house. Um, and I told her like we can go on Tuesday. She's like I want to go today. I'm like no, we're not. I'm sorry that that's what you want to do. That's not what we're doing because we're going to go on Tuesday and Wednesday when they're
Mhm.
slashing the prices to get everything out of there for Christmas time things.
Yep. Oh, and Emilio, this is logical. Therefore, it does not happen in this house. Uh, yeah, we do have a baby gate, and and what we do when we leave for more than when we both leave the house for like a substantial number of hours, or when we have a dog sitter come by, is we'll put up the baby gate. But no, that would be logical to have the baby gate up at night during Halloween, considering how many times the doorbell or the door gets knocked on or rung over an evening. That would be logical, sir. We can't have logic here. Yeah, and Coco, today is equivalent to getting roses on February 13th. That is accurate, sir.
It's a rookie move to try and get anything today. Um,
Yes.
like if you're running out last minute because you didn't buy candy, that's between you and Jack the Pumpkin King. That's your mistake that you're going to have to deal with.
Yep.
No one else has to. No one else should have to suffer for your mistakes and poor planning. Just wait till tomorrow. Get the candy cheap. Just
Uh
you
huh.
do the thing if you really want to. You didn't have any candy, do the thing where, you turn off all the lights in the house, people come up, knock on the door. Oh, man, they're not home. They didn't put out candy. Oh, well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
better to be the house that is, man, they're just not home, other than they're the house that's home, but they didn't get Halloween candy. Not that I'm
Yes.
sure how much people trick or treat these days, because I know it is different these days, because you have all, like the trunk or treat that a lot of people do in communities. Um,
Yep.
Depending on where you are, like in rural community, especially, that makes sense, because if I have to trek a click in between houses, that's gets a little tiring. Kids don't want to walk as long as you do usually, and even I sometimes get tired after walking. You know, I don't want to, especially in the rural parts of the world. You don't have to, walk through the woods just to get to another house. It'd be
Correct.
exhausting. Um,
Yes.
but I don't know how much. I'll be interested to see how much of the traditional trick or treating we see tonight out and about.
Absolutely.
And I've
Yes.
already had to lay out a costume, and it's sitting by the
Oh.
door waiting after I pick her up from school and all that jazz.
Oh, okay. For a second there, I thought that you were the one who had to lay out the costume for this evening and not a costume for said 5-year-old.
Oh, no, I don't have a costume.
Okay.
Um, I probably should have, and I probably will next year, because I'll get peer pressured into it. But yeah, it
Yes.
didn't happen this year.
So Coco, once again, is absolutely correct. You will pay a stupid tax for shopping today. And
Yeah, and to Coco's point, apartment complex lets everyone come to the parking lot, trick or treat, so they don't have to go door to door, since we don't have controllable outside lights. Yeah,
mhm,
like there's unique situations where, like, the traditional, what we knew growing up, it's not functional. It's not a reasonable way to do things, just because the layouts are not everyone's layout is the exact same. Not everyone grows up in like the movie Halloween, that kind of neighborhood where everyone's got sidewalks they're walking down. So
yep.
yeah, what you consider to be memorable childhood moments of, oh, that's how it always was. That's not the way it is for everybody, and people got different ways they go about it.
Yep. Coco, once again, Reese's don't get handed out to trick or treaters. They stay home, as they should. And Sean, I learned this almost 10 years ago, that the boss is a great woman, because she looks at it, she sits there and pulls things aside. She's looking out for moi, no doubt about it, because I can't look out for myself. She does a better job of looking out for me than I do looking out for me. So we'll get into uh, a lot of your Halloween thoughts. I know that we probably all have hot takes, and one of them was just brought in by Jared a couple of minutes ago that I will steadfastly disagree with. I can't do candy corn. I really can't. I just nope,
Candy corn is fine.
nope, nope, not
Candy
happening.
corn is it's not my personality, but I enjoy it. If you give it to me, I will happily eat it. The marshmallow pumpkins are an underrated part of Halloween. Um, they're just not generally put on any list, and that's a damn shame. Um, I
Mm-hmm.
know in the past, when we were consistently able to do soccer over there, which hopefully will be returning at a
Yes.
point in the future, um, we were we were replacing juice boxes with different Halloween candies of different values. Reese's were generally always the top. My favorite one of these is, in case you're not aware, there was a time where a friendly wager was placed on a Juventus game that involved Jason having to buy and send Nick a large container of white chocolate Reese's cups.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really how that runs. And so that's kind of your opening kickoff. We figured today would be somewhat of a perpetual candy-based thing, considering what is going to be going on probably later this afternoon. Because when it gets kind of gray and dark, it doesn't really matter what time it is now. Folks just kind of start gravitating out, and we do have a trunk or treat, I think, that's going to happen next door to our subdivision. But yeah, probably starts a little earlier than normal. Probably starts and probably finishes a little earlier than normal, because of that same said reason of the crappy weather conditions that we have today here in Atlanta. Yes, yeah, we did, Tom, on David Ornstein's article in The Athletic this morning. We'll get into that. Coco, since Arsenal smacked Forest, they can smack Liverpool too. Liverpool couldn't score on Forest. Arsenal can score 5 on Liverpool. See, Coco is full-blown transitive property Premier League this morning. 5-0. It was 1-0, then it was 5-0 by the time it was over. So our resident Arsenal fan, or perhaps our anti-Liverpool fan, probably might be more accurate with Coco. So we've got a lot of stuff to get into this morning. And I also, before we get into all of the stuff with Messi, and it took up probably a good half of the David Ornstein article this morning in The Athletic. Before we get into that, I just wanted to let everybody know, I don't know if you know about this, but for those who kind of follow Nashville SC, Ethan Zubak, story over the weekend, they lost everything they had in their apartment fire, Ethan Zubak and his wife. And this goes to the human condition. Basically, lost everything. And so a GoFundMe was set up fairly immediately for Ethan Zubak and his wife. They had a set figure. It was made in a day. And so now they're on the plus side for that. So once again, the soccer community stepping up for one another. Doesn't matter what the favorite jersey is, but very, very cool stuff for everyone who follows Nashville SC. And so the GoFundMe still does exist. And there was an anonymous $5,000 donation to get to the halfway point too. So very, very cool stuff of the soccer community stepping up to help out Ethan Zubak and his wife, Katie. So the GoFundMe's there, and you can also look up Ethan Zubak on Twitter, but just to get a little background. But once again, what the soccer community does for one another, just another example of that. So very, very cool stuff for a really awful situation up in Nashville. Okay. Getting into the games yesterday, the games yesterday. Last time I checked, there were games yesterday, and we went from 4-2 in the MLS Cup playoffs, and it started with LAFC, Jarrett, and Austin, and we'll get into NYC and Philadelphia because that definitely will probably take up most of the remainder of your time here this morning because of a lot of stuff that happened there, plus Tampa Bay and Memphis. But when we look at LAFC and Austin, Jarrett, from 30,000 feet with that game in the barn, knowing that LAFC is going to be hosting MLS Cup, what still sticks in your brain and what ruminates from yesterday heading into today?
Disappointment in Austin. That kind of thing was kind of what I feared with Austin and what they've been this year. They've had games. Look, they had games where they rolled up to LAFC earlier this season and just started blasting away in really impressive ways. They also rolled over to the Galaxy or had the Galaxy come into Austin and just absolutely got trampled by a Jekyll and Hyde LA Galaxy team.
Yeah.
Austin has gotten a lot better year one to year two, obviously. I mean, they made it to the Western Conference Finals. Every number 2 seed. Really impressive performances overall all season long, but still just occasionally it's like watching a pod race where, wow, that's really impressive. That's really cool. Oh, something containing the elements on this exploded, and now Austin's pod is 300 feet in the air, and it isn't slowing down. It might break atmosphere before it comes back, before it like runs out of gas.
Mm-hmm.
Austin just didn't. It just didn't.
No.
And a lot of that you can attribute to LAFC decided they were going to put Austin in hell, and they did. Austin probably should have had a penalty late.
Yeah.
Ultimately, that didn't really matter much because LA gets 3 goals. Honestly, makes it a little bit easier to stomach for me as a neutral that, hey, that goal didn't really, I mean, goals change games. Maybe it changes it if it becomes 2-1 at that point. Maybe Austin finds a little pep in their step. But man, if you looked at the game flow of this one, it was LAFC decided, we're going to lock Austin in a room and we're going to leave them there for 90 minutes and we're just going to fire rocks in through a hole in the vent. And that's what they did. And it was very impressive. LA and it's one of those things that, like, I always am waiting to see how LAFC deals with getting punched in the mouth. Because traditionally, they've had those bouts where if you just punch LA in the face, they don't know what to do. the key here, I guess, for LAFC is make sure that if you punch Austin in the face over and over again, they never get to punch you in the face, which is
Yeah.
a very sound strategy. How that
Yes.
works in MLS Cup, oh, buddy,
Yeah.
that's going to be fun.
Mhm.
Carlos Vela could have been sent off in this game for a
Should
tackle
have
that was not good.
should have.
It was
Absolutely.
it was a it was a very questionable tackle.
Yeah.
I don't know how they deal with Philadelphia because Philadelphia is going to drag this game into the mud and they are going to fight in the mud together because guess what? Philadelphia is pretty convinced they can hold their breath longer than you can.
Yeah. Absolutely. Vela should have been sent off, but of course, like I said, that's just me. But at the same time, it's Carlos Vela in a semifinal, and the activity will not lend itself to that. The friendly fire has started once again here in the Twitch pitch. Coco with I feel like I should have a rim shot here. Coco in early this morning. Austin did what LAFC's done in the playoffs in years past.
Yeah, I
Disappeared.
mean, yeah, like Seattle wasn't there to take LAFC out behind the woodshed and beat them with a chain, with the dog still in the chain.
Mm-hmm.
So Austin wasn't that team to really do it, and Austin was on the back foot, and LAFC. I mean, like I said, we can criticize Austin for really not doing the job.
Yeah.
LAFC didn't give them the room to stretch their legs, really. Like LAFC just kind of, put them in a key lock and held them there,
Yeah.
and then scored a couple goals in the process. And LAFC scoring off set pieces. It's what they did, especially in the first half of the season. If they weren't able to unlock a game, like truly unlock it and start running rampant, they could just hold serve with you until they got a set piece. And they have, Vela, and they have other guys who can deliver very good dead balls.
Yeah.
And they're find a set piece goal, and it's the first rock out of the dam, and it's the first brace off the dam that's holding it up sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And then they can start to really run. We saw it with Philadelphia in the second game, where they went down. They got one back on a quick set piece. It's a really smartly taken quick set piece. New York City falls asleep. Boom, it's even.
Yep.
Philadelphia woke up. Then what
Mm.
happened?
Yep.
And anyway, I started blasting.
Yep. So as the resident NBAer among the two of us here, or between the two of us here, Coco admits it might be a bad comparison, but LAFC feels like Jordan's Bulls that had to bang against the Celtics and Pistons multiple years before finally breaking through. LAFC had to bang against Seattle multiple times before now finally breaking through.
Philadelphia had to bang against reality for years before they broke through, man. Philadelphia, yeah, and it kind of does feel like that. I think other teams are still gonna fight with LAFC. I want to see how LAFC retools this after Vela, because I think Vela's coming to the end here.
Yeah, I
He
think
is
so.
certainly not what he was even
No.
a couple of years ago, which sucks. Hopefully his twilight goes pretty well. He's still able to contribute. I think he's not just magically not going to become good. He's just not what he was. But you have man, there were the rumors this summer that they were like looking to move Arango for a
Yeah.
bigger nine, and dude,
Mm-hmm.
what the hell? Why?
Yes. Chicho
I
Arango is the
mean,
one to hang on to for future notice.
yeah, he's just so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see how they retool that. It's a team last year that dealt with a lot of injuries and could not find a rhythm to save their lives and missed playoffs on decision day. Uh, Trundle comes in. They make a couple acquisitions. They get guys healthy, and man, they just hit the ground running this year. And once they got their legs stretched out, and once they got on the backstretch, man, it was fine for LAFC. And yeah, the Galaxy gave them a scare in the last round and made it weird for them, but find a way, man. And yeah, worst case scenario, you get into set pieces, which again, Makes the Philadelphia game really weird here. And I think other teams will still recognize eventually, like whether it's Arango, whether it's Vela, whoever it needs to be, you can't show them respect. You're going to have to knock them around a bit.
Yep.
And Philadelphia did it last night to Santi. Santi picked up. He was fouled 5 times in the first half of that game for New
Yes,
York
he
City.
was.
But you can't. It's this line where we want to protect skill players in this league, but you can't show them so much respect that you let them get the ball in turn. If that makes sense, like you have to put them in a certain level of hell that doesn't necessarily involve trying to end their life.
Yes.
Don't let them turn. Take a small piece out of them.
Because if you do that more and more and more, it ends up being a large piece of that individual. Take a small piece here. Take a small piece here. Like fouling Santi 5 times in the first half. You're taking a little bit more each and every time. And then Rodriguez, after the 5th foul, is the one who gets frustrated. And he's the one that gets the finger wag from center ref.
Yeah, that was frustrating. And I think he was ready to start throwing cards, at the end of the half for whoever fouled next. Because you picked up 5 fouls on Santi at that point. Coco talk, mentions like the Philadelphia debating against COVID and New York City and their own demons before breaking through. And Rich talks about it, like, look, man, Philadelphia, their first trophy was last year. They've been to 3 U.S. Open Cup finals and lost them all. They've had lovable loser status for a while before Jim Curtin decided to go full heel.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Philadelphia was one of those for a while where you're like, man, I feel like this whole thing could just explode and be a lot of fun, but I don't know when it's going to happen. Well, I mean, it happened. The sleeping giant has awoken. But yeah, man, they lost 3 U.S. Open Cup finals. Their shield was their first trophy. And, then it just seemed like everything was getting in the way. Then they go down against New York last night. And the play of the game is probably Andre Blake making a stupid good save just after that. Because if New York goes up 2-0, we're talking about a different game. And I don't know how, I don't know how the game shifts at that point. But Andre Blake makes a fantastic save. And Philadelphia is able to, get a set piece. They go quick. New York falls asleep. And then it just unravels for New York.
65, 67, and shortly thereafter. David came in early this morning. Very disappointed Jose Martinez could not find a red card yesterday. Would have been most the dupe thing to happen.
Only if it happened at the very end of the game. He got his deserved yellow card. He probably should have been on an orange card at that. But it's a yellow card, but it's probably like a yellow card with, hey, you don't have a lot of leeway going forward, that kind of thing. Like a light orange card after that.
Yes.
But he managed himself really well after that. And I said during the game, like, if it's me in that situation, I'm looking at, like, if I'm playing for New York City and I get into a tussle with him, if Jose Martinez is up on the ground, I'm standing over him because I'm going to do what he does to me, which is I'm going to try and get in his head and see if I can set him off and see if we can get something going that, see if you can get him into trouble. But he managed himself really well after that. And, managed the emotion, managed the moment, then broke into the press conference afterward and tried to get Jim Curtin to come celebrate with them.
Yep. Rich, were you one of the select few that were there? The Blake save was the turning point, and the stadium felt that. I'm assuming by your phraseology that you were there.
Yeah, I think so. Because I think if it goes 2-0 right there, if New York finds that second goal, man, you are
at that point.
I mean, New York already should have been going more CONCACAF than they were, but if it goes 2-0 there, that kind of would have felt like the nail. And I'd take Rich's opinion on this because with with Philadelphia's past experiences being what they are, I would not have blamed them if that 2-0 would have been the, well, here we go again moment.
Yeah.
At
Yeah.
1-0, you thought, cool, we got 30 minutes to do something. You made changes. You brought Corey Burke on. It's not over. At 2-0 that quickly, I can't imagine that would not have just taken the absolute air out of the stadium, but he makes a great save because he is goalkeeper of the year.
Yes.
Still not sure how no one in Europe has grabbed him. I don't know what it is about these CONCACAF goalkeepers that y'all don't want to start in Europe.
Hey.
But, man, it's amazing that Andre Blake never ended up in Europe. Look, that their loss is Philadelphia's gain.
Absolutely.
But, I mean, yeah, there had to be some team somewhere that had the money to say, "Hey, I don't care what he can do, what he can or can't do with the ball at his feet. Dude's a freakish shot stopper. Let's go ahead and grab him." Um, but yeah, it's that felt like the turning point in the game, and then like I said, Philadelphia just tightens the screw down on NYC. And Byrne talks about, and we're jumping around, I know. Austin's a counter-attacking team that feeds on MLS teams' inability to defend transitions. Steve Cherundolo learned how to manage in Germany, where defending transitions is key to survival. Cherundolo, masterclass. And, I mean, I said, Austin has been so weird, man. Like, they'll have some games where they will go out there and they will blow anyone out of the water.
Absolutely.
And they still have some games where it's just, eh. And you're just not impressed, for lack of a better word.
Yeah. To the Andre Blake discussion, he would start for a solid number of EPL teams. Could you imagine Jesse Marsh knocking on Jim Curtin's door? If you had the choice of Melier or Andre Blake, for me, that's a no-brainer. Absolute no-brainer. That one for me is an easy one. You knock on because if Jesse Marsh is bringing in Adams, bringing in Aronson, bringing in the stars and bars for Leeds United. Yeah, Jamaica's FIFA ranking. Yeah, some dumb rule about FIFA ranking and visas. Okay. So I just, for me, it's, you look at, all right, so let's take a look at the table. Well, let's go ahead. We'll go down this rabbit hole for a second. We'll go down this rabbit hole. So in the Premier League, and obviously we'll start at the bottom. That's fine. Nottingham Forest, absolutely. Wolves, they've got Jose Sa. I don't know. Leicester, absolutely. Knicks could probably back us up on that one. Southampton, absolutely. Villa has Emi Martinez. They're good there. Leeds, absolutely. Bournemouth, absolutely. So of the bottom 7, that's just of the bottom 7 teams, you could sit there and go, yep, I could see that. Bournemouth, Leeds, Southampton, Leicester, Forest. Absolutely. I could see Andre Blake in one of those positions. No doubt about it. Absolute no-brainer. Okay, so here's the explanation. Here's what Rich has. Both deals fell apart because Blake doesn't qualify for a UK work permit. Snagging the work permit is due to the Jamaican national team's low FIFA rating, according to Ivis Galarcep. Report notes Jamaica is currently ranked 61st in the world, hasn't been in the top 50 for more than a decade, a threshold apparently used in England. Okay, well, that's the first problem in England to grant work permits for foreign transfer targets. Yes, all right, so I'm England. I'm the Premier League, and I can't do Jason's yell, so I'm going to just go ahead and defer in that case. So, all right, we have a certain standard as the Premier League. If you're below a certain standard, which we somewhat arbitrarily set, you have to be one of the top 50 nations in the world to play football. We have to play the beautiful game. But if you're below 50, you can't play here. You're not worth it. Whatever. Give me a break, England. It's another thing that puts them behind. Stop being so tight when it comes to your vision. Expand your horizons. Understand that it's not just you and the top 50 nations that play the sport well individually by position. Come on. Yeah, I think, Coco, that's probably why. That Keylor Navas has never been to England. So, all right, so let's take a peek at the FIFA rankings really quickly. As we said, we go down these rabbit holes sometimes, which is perfectly fine. That's what this show is all about. So, men's rankings, FIFA. Okay. Yes, I accept. I'm okay with that. I take all of the cookies. That's great. So, CONCACAF, click on it. Well, Costa Rica's 31. So, okay. So it's just lack of interest, which is also dumb. Jamaica right now is 64. So below that 50, you've got Panama, Jamaica, El Salvador.
I would also like to point out there are countries other than England in Europe.
Yes.
Europe isn't just England and a subsidiary of city-states.
Yes. And Coco, you definitely sum this up correctly. So what the hell, England? Yeah, it is the inherent superiority, self-thought. We can't have anybody past 50. So all right, so let's look under 50. Now that you've got my interest peaked. Well, now that you've got my interest peaked, let's see who's below 50 here. All right, page 2. I'm Paul Harvey now. All right. Saudi Arabia, Greece, Romania, Slovakia, Finland, Venezuela is at 57. Bosnia-Herzegovina is at 58. Northern Ireland at 59. Panama, Iceland, Jamaica, North Macedonia 65. Let's see, Bulgaria 72. El Salvador 74. Let's see, Honduras is at 80. Bolivia 82. Zambia, Uganda 88, 89. Let's see, Belarus, Equatorial Guinea, Congo. That gets you to 100. So yeah, that's real good. That's good stuff, England. But no, and then Rich, no, that's cool. Thank you for grabbing the story. And I mean, it still applies if it's still the case where Andre Blake is for the national team that is 64th in the world right now, but apparently not good enough for 5 of the 7 teams at the bottom of the table in the Premier League. Oops. Nice rule. And Coco, yeah, I mean, spent a good long while in Spain and now France. Maybe you just never wanted to go anywhere else. Yeah, I mean, if you're comfortable with the lifestyle and all those kinds of things, that makes a lot of sense. And that could be it too. But yeah, Coco's right on. So what the hell, England? Yeah, it's just no, stop. And apparently, Rich debated going to MLS Cup final. Flights are $450. That's a lot. Scott's Cheap Flights might be able to help you out, so keep an eye out there. Navas was at Levante before Real Madrid. Okay. All right. Yeah, so it's silly. All right, the Ornstein article. Let me get into this briefly before we get into Jarrett departing for the day. And we'll get into all the other stuff that has gone on. Because before Jarrett leaves, I want to talk about the Ornstein article. And I want to talk about USL Championship. I want to get into Memphis and Tampa Bay before he goes. So Ornstein, with his Monday Ornsteinness, gets into what we've been discussing a lot, but now Ornstein puts it out there. Reports suggest PSG will push hard to extend the contract of Lionel Messi. He's also been linked with Inter Miami CF and a return to Barcelona. The most advanced of those options is understood to be Inter Miami, to the extent that the MLS franchise now expect Messi to arrive and hope he will sign in the coming months. Discussions between the two parties have been going on for a couple of years, increasing confidence that the proposed transfer will materialize. The Moss brothers leading the negotiation. Numerous meetings have taken place with the star's father, Jorge. No more conversations anticipated until the World Cup finishes, most probably early 2023, at which point Messi can put pen to paper on a pre-contract with a foreign team. And so Ornstein, quote, "If he picks Inter Miami, it will be an extraordinary achievement for them in the league. Messi would arguably be the most high-profile acquisition in the history of the competition. The impact he could have on football in the U.S., especially as it gears up to jointly host the 2026 World Cup, is another factor appealing to everyone involved in the dialogue. Inter Miami have always known that a move to their city is a source of attraction for Messi's family, who already own a property there. Rather high-priced condo, if I remember correctly. Miami's community links with South America are strong, too. But the club developing a pull of their own amid improved displays on the pitch and structural progress behind the scenes. So there you go. So David Ornstein puts it out there. You got the new stadium coming, and the World Cup is coming. So Lionel Messi is coming to Inter Miami.
In theory.
But yes, and Coco, once again, absolutely true. Buddy, if pen ain't meant paper, that deal ain't done. Yeah, this is like National Signing Day. Unless that faxes in, A, always, B, C, closing. Always be closing. Always be closing. Until it happens, it ain't happened. But the question to the floor, is Messi a bigger acquisition than Beckham to LAG if he does go to Inter Miami? What say you, Jared Smith?
I think he can be. It's kind of different, but yeah, Messi is the sport, and it's kind of what you were hoping that would happen. Coco's makes a point. Like they created new rules when Beckham arrived. Will they do that with Messi?
Here's what
I'll tell you what they might do.
Yeah.
Here's what they might do. It might open up more opportunity for clubs to spend money, and more DP spots, or just get rid of DP spots and put a cap in place or something. I don't know, so that Miami can keep the team they've got.
Yes.
And build and have more than just because you can't just have Messi and nothing else. You can't. Like, the greatest sin would be to go hey, we got Messi. Okay, what else do you have? It's basically like the first 30 minutes of Shaolin soccer.
Yeah, we got Brexier and Bryce Duke and Drake Callender.
I mean, you can call it whatever you want. But yeah, that's basically what happened here is, they would. You can't just have Messi and nothing. Like you can't. The league's not going to let Messi be in Miami where it's just Messi and a bunch of creative players.
It's Inter Messi.
So, however,
it's Inter Messi CF.
Yes. However, that needs to happen for Inter Messi CF. It's going to happen.
Well, and this is what I think this activity probably necessitates is all of the talk that we have had here at the network for years. Either expand or blow up the salary cap and add your fourth DP.
Yeah, but to Coco's point, Miami already tried having an incredibly top-heavy roster and ended up breaking rules to do it. Yeah, man, but when it's Messi, the rules might just straight up change. Like, you just might change the rules to make it fit however you need and to make it be competitive. Or not to make it be competitive, give them the option to be competitive.
Yes.
We'll see.
And that's the that to me is, this might be where the blank or get off the pot moment for Major League Soccer with
just expand it out.
Yeah.
This is so stupid that we have to have this conversation. Like, I've lost my mind at this point having this conversation about how should we change spending? Like, let teams spend. If they want to spend money, let them spend money however they want. If somebody wants to make bad financial decisions, let them.
Exactly right. Because someone will take advantage of that individual making those bad financial decisions and want to dive into something that is a growth market. Coco wants to see open up more DP spots or open the cap up entirely, but I doubt Garber's thinking that far ahead. But this Inter Messi CF stuff might force his hand a little bit and thinking it's like, oh, bleep, what do we got to do here? Like I said, I think this might be the oh, bleep moment. And Ricky's thinking that sounding like they're pushing off all these big changing moves until they get to 30 as a crutch or something. Why wait? The Intermessi CF discussion may not have any more time for them to wait. It's like, hey, we want to do this. What are you going to do about it? And so NFL owners saw that the draft have no spending cap, will be scared of opening up spending to whatever you want. Yeah. So that's the thing. I think that, when Intermessi CF comes to play, the fax is in, and you have the press conference probably on the grounds of the new stadium, not at DRVP&K, not at an office somewhere, but probably in an artificially created environment over by the airport. That you have that environment created on the grounds of the new stadium before even the first shovel has turned over the first piece of dirt. You've got Lionel Messi there to sit there and say, hey, look who's going to be here as a part of this growth of Major League Soccer and Intermessi CF. You can't buy enough publicity for a moment like that. And then it's going to be, all right, Major League Soccer, what are you going to do about it? How do you benefit your league bringing in somebody like this? And Coco with the NFL discussion, Sam Bradford, $72 million for absolutely nothing. They don't want that. Yeah. Yep. No doubt. Before you go, USL Championship, we're down to the Final Four. San Antonio beat Oakland, and it was the most random thing. I saw an Oakland Roots sweatshirt at the Auburn-Arkansas game on Saturday. I'm
very sorry that you went to the Auburn-Arkansas game.
Yeah, no, it was it was a lot of hate watching going on. But yeah, Oakland Roots sweatshirt on the plains.
John, why were you at that game? Ricky wants to know why you were even at that game.
Because the boss and the family have season tickets. No, actually, well,
Coco, I just imagine this is that thing where like people wanted to be around the hill near Tower of London to see the executions take place, and I imagine people are hanging around Auburn just to see the moment when Brian Harsin gets fired.
Absolutely. So you end up with a lot of hate watching, and to your point, Coco, by the time the game was over, that is an accurate statement. The season tickets that the in-laws have, first two rows, opposite 20-yard line. So visiting side, 20-yard line, first two rows, upper deck. So they're pretty cool seats. Do not get me wrong, and they've had them forever. So we were there, and by the time things started distancing themselves in the third quarter, I mean, to give you an idea, and Jared, I know we need to talk about Tampa Bay and Memphis and that crazy ending before you go, but fraternities and sororities, they are in the end zone section as you're watching on TV, the end zone to your right, and the student body from about 2 o'clock till 1 till about 3. That whole section from about noon until 3 as you're watching on television, that's the student section. Student sections, fraternities and sororities, they're supposed to stay the entire game, or you get your block of seats revoked. By the beginning of the third quarter, when the game was a blowout, the end zone was probably 3/4 empty of students, and the student section was mainly the band. So I would love to see what the university is going to try to do to try to enforce what happened, because the game was so damn bad.
You got boat raced by Sam Pittman
and KJ
who
Jefferson.
Maybe you should have hired.
And your own stupidity. Yes, absolutely true.
And who maybe you should have hired instead of Brian Harsin out of just left field.
Well,
I mean, I know you're coming off of Gus Malzahn, like this power football that disguises itself as like fun spread chaos, but secretly has a lot of power elements, like a lot of pin and pull, a lot of like A gap, B gap, like we're like the tight end's leading the way and the Stampede's coming through. Watch out, Mufasa style that like disguised itself as chaos. But like maybe I should have just gone with It should have gone with someone like Sam Pittman and just worked out that way, or
Well,
Dan Lanning with what he's doing in Oregon.
yeah, Turner, we're
Because
getting into that.
Oregon's got them. By the way, Oregon's got themselves a pretty cool quarterback. If y'all want to look at the transfer portal.
Yeah, considering that he hated playing for Brian Harsin, and you scared off one of the first families of Auburn football by just being an alleged ass. Yeah, we're getting into that, Turner. The OSG Sports college football X is up and running over on the OSG Sports side of things. So we'll get into that after Jarrett goes. We'll get into the Auburn stuff in just a little bit. But, okay, Tampa and Memphis.
We're getting into the stuff Auburn.
Yeah,
Turner, we already
yeah, we're all in.
You already missed the pro candy corn discussion, so yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, so the reason that we got into the Auburn left turn was because I saw an Oakland Roots sweatshirt at the Auburn game on Saturday.
And I wanted to know why he did that to himself.
Yeah, because the tickets were paid for, and you get to catch up with friends. All right, so in the West, it's Colorado Springs at San Antonio. In the East, before we got to the final two and figured out who was going to Louisville, it was Tampa Bay and Memphis. And if you watched none of the match and have a subscription to ESPN Plus, pick the game up.
Please go back and watch the end of the game.
The 85th minute on. That's what you need to watch, because that's all you need to know.
I just want to point out that this is the same official who did the Atlanta United Nashville U.S. Open Cup game. You remember the game where they just randomly called a Nashville goal not a goal without really giving an explanation? Remember that game? Yeah, that's the
dude.
That's the same guy. And if you missed the end of this, John, walk me through it.
So, all right, let me see if I can remember correctly. It was penalty call on Tampa. Breno saves the PK.
And it's a really questionable penalty too. Like it was not a clear cut. Yep, that's absolutely 100% a penalty to be calling it at the death almost.
Yes. And then so you have a penalty. Phil Breno saves it. And there were 4 minutes added originally. 4 minutes added. So by the time Breno saves that penalty, you're north of 90 plus 4. So you're wondering how many more minutes you're going to be getting here. Then work your way to the right-hand side of the television screen. Another penalty is called. Tampa Bay has the chance to get the win at like 90 plus 8 after review and everything. Tampa Bay puts it in the back of the net. They go on to win. So Tampa Bay at Louisville in the East, Colorado Springs at San Antonio in the West. But yes, if you have ESPN Plus, go back to the 85th minute, watch the last part of the game, because that was the craziness that was attached. So that's your Final Four in USL Championship. And yeah, the madness in the opening round of LSU and Ole Miss with 3 ejections after a fight on the field in the SEC soccer tournament. Yeah, go back and watch that. That was another part of it too. So yeah, absolute craziness. And so there you go. Jared, it's 10 o'clock. Do you have to depart us for today?
I do. Final shout out to our friends at Tormenta, because they are hosting the USL League One Championship, I believe against Chattanooga.
That is correct.
Yeah. Our boys in Tormenta are attempting the double, because if you don't remember, the women of Tormenta won the WUSL Championship and handed the Aurora their only loss of the season. So,
yes,
congratulations to the folks down in South Georgia. They had to go to Greenville to do it in a blood feud, and they did the job. Now they're going for the double. I'll see you.
Yep. So that's Jarrett. He's done.
Also, sorry. Also, to Turner's point, if you haven't seen the LSU Ole Miss fight from the women's soccer tournament, oh my God, please go watch it, because hands were thrown.
Yes, they
Enemies were made for life.
Yes. So go to the Discord because I'm sure that the link is there and it's already been posted.
They are there.
But it's up on Twitter as well, and that's where I saw it. Was all of the hands being thrown were there. So we'll do this again tomorrow, sir.
Probably. We'll see you.
Yeah, probably. So Jared is out at 10 o'clock, which means I have to go find music. And let's see, what did we say? 20? Was that the level that we had? 20, I think, was the level for the music. I think it was 20. Yeah. So there's 20. It is not on loop. And I'm going to hit the button and read the promo. Because it's that time to catch up with our friends from Eliminize Service. Rotor-free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go. And it is Eliminize, QR code over my left shoulder for those of you watching on Twitch. Deodorizing enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos, they've created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pet, cigarettes, food. Realtors and property managers use the Eliminize service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. It's a turnkey process, which makes it easy to work with pet realtors and property managers. Kind of the environment, we like that these days, offering a very green way to get rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever. Different than Febreze or our favorite masking agents that we have either under the sink or above us in the cupboard, because when we reach above us in the cupboard or underneath the sink and spray the masking agent in the air, that's why they call it a masking agent, spraying it into the air, masking the odor. You're not attacking it down to the molecule like our friends at Eliminize do. Pricing very, very easy. Cubic feet or parts per million to come up with a price that's affordable for you. Offering results in 24 hours or less. Frequently asked questions or otherwise, go to the website. This is where I grab my pen. Website, eliminize.com, but do us a favor. After the .com, go /Atlanta so they know what part of the world that you are addressing them from, so they know where they can go to attack your problems. It is eliminize.com/Atlanta, eliminize.com/Atlanta for odor-free, clean, fresh air. Eliminize Service, proud sponsors of everything SDH on a Monday, where it is a reaction Monday, over, under, on par, whatever's on your mind. And to Jarrett and Ricky's point, yeah, I mean, it was in the USL League One. It was a 1-0 win for Tormenta in Greenville. And if you missed it, the conversations that we've been having with our friends at Tormenta about the new faces that came in late in the year that have integrated really well. Ian Cameron, that interview, the head coach of Tormenta, that one is up on that's up on the network, so you can go back and research that. And then you had Rafa Mensingen, who was part of the Red Wolves group. Red Wolves beating Richmond in Richmond. Very, very tough thing to do. So Chattanooga wins in Richmond. Tormenta wins in Greenville. So the two road teams win in USL League One. Championship game is this Sunday night in Tormenta at Tormenta Stadium. And it'll be on, I believe it is on ESPN2. It is on the ESPN family of networks one way or the other. I will be there. So we'll see what it's going to look like there for the championship game in USL League One. As Jarrett said, Tormenta chases the double USLW championship, and they knocked off Chattanooga last week of the regular season. And that's what got them the 3 seed with that win, plus some math that was involved. And they almost got the 2 seed if Greenville hadn't scored with a couple minutes to go in regulation in their match. But Tormenta, highest remaining seed, gets Chattanooga. So it's Tormenta and Red Wolves in the USL League One title game. That is this Sunday night in Statesboro. Very, very cool stuff from them. All right, so back quickly to Auburn down there. Yeah, so Turner, here's where we go. Basking in the downfall of Auburn. Went there and watched the game. Place was blank and empty, as it should have been. And you're waiting for Brian Harsin to be tarmacked, and hadn't happened yet. So we're still waiting for that. And a lot of Auburn fans are, as the Florida State person in the discussion. The next home game, I think, for Auburn is against ATM, and I'll be wearing my Florida State gear just to spite the head coach who I will be looking over his shoulder on that Saturday. So, so the South runs lower division soccer, Ricky, as they should. Let's see. So what else is on y'all's mind this morning? Let me go through the comments here. Let's see if I missed anything once again, since we're at the top of the second hour of the show. Halloween candy discussions were big in the first hour. Do you hoard? Do you purchase so that you can grab a certain thing, keep it for yourself, and then just give everybody who comes to the door everything else? Kit Kat for me is a close second. Reese's are number one. I don't know how you folks eat candy corn. I really don't. And the boss purchases things, pulls the Reese's out, puts them in the freezer, and whoever knocks on the door gets everything else, whether it's the Jolly Ranchers or the Sweet Tarts or the Kit Kats, Whoppers, those kinds of things. Everything else goes to everybody who comes knocking on the door, where the Reese's are pulled out of the container and placed in the freezer. Very, very short order. Let's see. Trying to see if there's anything. Oh, Coco. Yeah, when you wanted to get into the Premier League stuff. Since Arsenal smacked Forest, and if this was a transitive property of Premier League hatred, I think. Since Arsenal smacked Forest, can they smack Liverpool too, right? Liverpool couldn't score on Forest. Arsenal can score 5 on Liverpool. Right now, we'll see. It is not looking good right now for Liverpool. Arsenal did very, very well. Started out kind of slow. It was 1-0, and you figured that Nottingham Forest was going to kind of pack things in and not let it get out of control. But it was 2 goals in very short order, I want to say in the 60s. And then it was on from there. So, yeah. And apparently, according to published reports, Nottingham Forest is going to spend another $50 to $100 million on transfers in the January window. The running gag, once again, is that they will have more transfers than points. But right now, they're only 1 win out of being out of the relegation zone heading into match week 14. They've hit each one of the columns in the last 3, but their goal difference is minus 20. So when they lose big. When they lose big. So right now, that fight, Nottingham Forest at 9 points, Wolves with 0 offense. They've only scored 6 goals in 13 matches. And if it wasn't for Jose Sa, they'd be probably worse off. Leicester, Knicks, hold your ears. Right now, you're still in the relegation zone, even though you've won 2 of your last 3. Then Southampton, Villa, Leeds, all at 12 points. Jesse Marsch needed that win badly against Liverpool. And the celebration seemed to shock a lot of folks over in England about how Jesse reacted to the late goal. It's just dude getting excited. Let him get excited. Coaches get excited. That was just Jesse's response. Once again, that's how things happen. It doesn't have to be the reserved fist pump. It doesn't have to be, and just because Jesse Marsch does something where he's impressed with what he saw doesn't mean that it's not an allowable celebration. Calm down. We seem to have been having a lot of that this morning where we're talking about the Premier League. But Gaggle at 12 points. Bournemouth's lost 3 in a row after their coaching change, and they've come back to earth a little bit. They're at 13 points. West Ham and Everton are at 14 points. Brentford is 11th at 15. So basically 11 to 20 separated by 2 wins. So not a whole lot of stuff. That is a bit of a surprise. You still have some teams that have only played 12 instead of 13. Arsenal 2 points ahead of Manchester City. Arsenal, the first team to get to double-digit wins. And so Arsenal, Manchester City, Spurs is at 26 points. They snapped their 2-game losing streak coming out. Newcastle, some guy named Miguel Almiron seems to be doing pretty well. And I know that a lot of us here in the Southeast footprint are shocked about that. But, yeah, when you have a manager who knows what to do with Miguel Almiron, see Bruce, Steve, as to how not to use Miguel Almiron, not knowing what he does. Then when you have Eddie Howe come in and sit there and put Miguel Almiron in a role where he's actually doing well, amazing what happens. Newcastle, as Jason has maintained, the sleeping giant, the team that could be the one that crashes the party if everything is done right. They've spent some money. No surprise there. Once again, when you have the PIF, you can do that. But Newcastle, right now, 4th, unbeaten in their last 5. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Tom. Conte, Tuchel, Pep, Klopp, they can all run up and down the sidelines. But God forbid the Yank pump his fist. Exactly. Yes, and Michael, ever the optimist when it comes to Auburn. All those enjoying Auburn's lack of success right now, enjoy because we will be back. Absolutely. And yes, I get that from the boss. And full disclosure, Michael and I live within probably a good 5-iron from one house to the other, and so we always are seeing each other in travel circles, whether it's with animals or in automobiles. And so, yeah, Saturday was a long day, and there's a lot of backstory that's attached to the hiring of Brian Harsin, where apparently he wasn't even allowed to be vetted. AD hired him anyway. It's like, nope, he's my guy. You don't need to vet him. I'm hiring him. So that didn't go well for the AD in his new position. And Brian Harsin has proven that he wants others to do the recruiting for him. He'll come in, be successful, and then he's exposed, and then he's out the door. But it looks like the $15 million buyout, as we turn into the OSG on CFB here for a second, $15 million buyout doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you fire him now, you fire him at the end of the year. But now that Auburn's got a new AD, we'll see what happens and how quickly that turns around as they try and find yet another college football coach. It's pretty bad right now. But, yeah, it was pretty bad. But, yeah, just the randomness of seeing an Oakland Roots sweatshirt in Auburn on Saturday afternoon. I thought that was very cool, but very random all at the same time. So let me scan through all of the other comments, and if I've missed something, go ahead and repost it so we can go ahead and keep talking through what we've been getting through. We were talking about Halloween and trunk or treats. Emilio, visiting hours established by the HOA 6 to 9, not a minute more. Lights are out at 9:01. Man, I mean, when it comes to our neighborhood, we just kind of gauge it by activity. And if you haven't had folks come by the house and say 5 or 10 minutes, then you sit there and go, yeah, okay, we think we're probably done. And then you turn the light off, and then you close the door, and then you're done. So it's more of a feel thing, at least in our neighborhood. Lights out at 9:01. That seems kind of just straight laced. Coco once again maintained at the start of the playoffs. You thought that Philly would win it all, maintaining your stance. As you know, why change now? Let's see. Rich, yeah, y'all gonna be sick of us. And then of course Shooter coming in from Boston this morning. He says, we already are. So that's legitimately, I'm looking at it right now, and let me get into the juice boxes really quickly. Let me see if we have an early number. Okay. LAFC early in the composite is a minus 135. Your 90-minute draws a plus 307. Philadelphia to win outright in 90 minutes a plus 311. I'll take that number. I will take that plus 311. Or even the plus 307, because it could take a while and it could frustrate the ever-loving daylights out of LAFC. But what I want and what I would request is that whoever center ref is going to be, that you make sure that the fouls are called when they should be called. Persistent infringement, sure. But if it's an egregious foul, kind of like Vela, with what happened there, which I think should have been a red, and he only got a yellow because he's Carlos Vela. I don't care what the name is on the back of the jersey. If it's a red, it's a red. And studs up tackle by a superstar, you get Jordan rules or whatever, or Vela rules. And I just want whoever center ref is in MLS Cup, don't be afraid. I know that you don't want to pull a card early, set a tone, those kinds of things. But if it's warranted, do it. And, make sure that LA doesn't get away with what we saw from Vela. Make sure that Philadelphia doesn't do what they do. And when you foul somebody, when you foul someone early on, and you foul them and foul them and foul them. Santi Rodriguez gets fouled 5 times. There should have been a card in there for Philly somewhere. And then, of course, what happens, and you're the one that gives Santi the card. 17 fouls, I think, in the first half for Philadelphia. And let me check the numbers on that one because I want to see how many cards came out of the first half. So Philadelphia NYC. Let's get into this. Let's get into the I'm kind of doing some searching here. But the larger numbers in the statistics. Yellow cards on the day, you had 2 for Philly, and you had 19 fouls. You had 19 fouls and in the overall. So, yeah. So that's what you're hunting for in that situation. 19 fouls to 9 on the day. But I want an official who is not afraid to sit there and pull a trigger if it's warranted. So that's what I'm looking for. Emilio, Joe Dickerson, you watch. David, how awesome would it be for Disco to go back and suspend Vela? My guess is it's probably Elfath, OG. That's my gut, is that it would be Ismail Elfath would be the one to call it because, I mean, Elfath will my guess is it's Elfath. Give him another set of reps before he heads over to Qatar because, yeah, we'll get into that in a second, Emilio. Yeah, I mean, Martinez was straight yellow. Yeah, not persistent infringement yellow. I see all of you guys sitting there going, all right, no, I want this guy. But Elfath, I think, has a level head about him and is not afraid within the situation. If it was something that is so egregious and off the path that he'll call something like that. So we'll see. Let me see if they've made the announcement. MLS Cup referee. See if we've got the announcement first and foremost. Ismail Elfath, 2022 Ref of the Year. Corey Rockwell, your AR. I do not see. Let me see if MLS. Let me see if Pro has made their assignment. No, Pro has not made the assignment, at least on their website. But it would not surprise me if it was some combination of Elfath and Rockwell, because if they are your officials of the year, it would make sense to have them as a part of the discussion. Yeah, I mean, Tori Penso, if she were in there, I think that she would be better than quick trigger or almost not as much quick trigger Chris Penso. Yeah, if I had a choice, it'd be Tori over Chris. But yeah, I mean, if something is warranted, I would hope that whoever center ref is and whoever the ARs aren't afraid to call it. I know that you don't want to do something in the 12th minute that would upset the tenor of a match, but if it's really warranted, do it. And Rich, you might want to hold your ears here a little bit. But when you have players, crowd officials, and act as Philly does sometimes, you need someone who is not intimidated by that and will continue to call their match their way. So I think it lends itself to an Ismail Elfath, and so we'll see what the assignments are. But I think that Elfath and Rockwell would be, I think that might be a part of the discussion that should be there. If they were nominated and they were awarded those 2 titles, it would make sense to have them as a part of the discussion. Let's see. What else? Am I missing anything else when it comes to anything that I might have missed? And Ricky Ricardo with a good travel point. Fly to San Diego, catch a bus, or rent a car. But rental cars are just crazy expensive. But it might be cheaper to fly to San Diego and drive up. Coco, yeah, Harrison should be on Herm watch every time he walks on the field. You got to see who walks up to him. But now that it looks like they've got an AD, we'll see what happens there. Yeah, so that's what you're looking at. Yeah, exactly. That's just flat out Rockwell. Yes, no, that's an 80s reference. Straight up Rockwell. That was Rockwell. Emilio. Somebody's watching me. But that is appropriate for Corey. All right, so other stuff out of the Ornstein column this morning before we get into gossip, rumor, innuendo, and what you're watching for the day. Arsenal, it looked like they are going to attempt to make another contract offer for William Saliba, moved to the Emirates for £27 million in 2019, and it looks like they want to try to extend his contract. Right now it's set to go through 23 with an option for another 12 months. They want to try to make a longer deal. Roberto De Zerbi wants to sign Shakhtar defender Matvienko from his old club in January. And so now that Brighton got the first win, he wants to sign Mikola Matvienko. Could be around 20 million euro to gather him from Shakhtar. He's determined to bring him in to help out at center back. Juve step-up contract talks with rising English star Samuel Ealing Jr. Came off the bench for his Champions League debut at Benfica, had an assist in the 4-3 loss. Did the same on Lecce on Saturday. Kept in touch with the top four with a 1-0 win. So keep an eye on the 19-year-old and any contracts go there. And this is something else that's interesting. You know the Club World Cup, which is something that it's directly impacting Major League Soccer too, because Seattle Sounders, having won CONCACAF Champions League, they're attached to this. Right now, folks are waiting to hear where and when the Club World Cup will actually be played. According to Dermot Corrigan, Real Madrid, of course, they won by winning Champions League. You take on the continental champions of Asia, Africa, North America, South America, and Oceania in this FIFA tournament. Last year's event, won by Chelsea, played in Abu Dhabi in February. But despite reports suggesting the next event could take place in the U.S. in February, Real Madrid sources told The Athletic they had not been told a date or the venue for the proposed tournament. FIFA sources saying the tournament details are yet to be confirmed. So right now you have all of these champions that are waiting to figure out when they're supposed to play the Club World Cup. They don't know where and they don't know when. So let's just say, it's supposed to be in February, kind of getting you ready for, from a Seattle perspective, the Major League Soccer season. If you don't know, then, how much more of your training camp is going to be upset when they shoehorn a date in there that is going to probably end up being a lot closer to the regular season than you'd like. So keep an eye on the Club World Cup. We'll see what's going on there with that one. News also from Dave Ornstein, the latest update from Quantuma. Remember, they were the insolvency firm that ran Derby County for 10 months, according to Matt Slater. 84 pages long, and it talks about everything that went down at Derby County. Under Quantuma's control, Derby lost $15 million despite getting rid of staff and selling their best young players. That was an improvement on the losses from Mal Morris. He lost £250 million in 7 years, including a final write-off of $125 million to facilitate the sale to David Close back in July. Close paid just under $18 million to take them out of administration, which was on top of the $22 million he'd already paid Mal Morris for the stadium. Not that Morris saw any of it, because he simply passed it on to Dell Holdings, the equity firm that lent him the $20 million in 2020 that was secured against club assets personally guaranteed by Mal Morris. Dell also lent Quantuma almost £4 million to keep the club afloat last year. That was repaid in full. That was almost £9 million owed to, quote, football creditors, end quote. Under EFL rules, all debts to players, clubs, and leagues must be settled if a club is allowed to continue in the league after insolvency. Let's see. You had others had their IOUs paid off, legal firms to consultants, and none of those amounts included any kind of value after tax. Close was found after months were spent trying to sell the club to American Chris Kirchner. You remember him. MSD, players, lawyers, consultants, they got paid on full. Taxman got paid 25 cents on the dollar. They were owed $25 million, got paid just over $6 million. Settlements take into the amount that Close paid to save his club closer to £55 million. So you got that too. And so that's the news from David Ornstein this morning. Get into gossip, rumor, and innuendo here. and see what's going on. We mentioned Matviyenko. Real Madrid in pole position to sign Jude Bellingham, according to Fichajes. Barcelona midfielder Frenkie de Jong linked with a move to Manchester United, intent on staying at the new camp, and the 25-year-old will not listen to any offers in January. That's from Sport. Juve want to bring back Sergej Milinkovic-Savic from Lazio and Bastoni from Inter in order to convince Antonio Conte to join them. That's from Calcio Mercato. However, Juve Vice President Pavel Nedved has played down any move for Conte by saying that they have full faith in manager Max Allegri. Beat 2, 3, 4. This is where you need Nick's response. Something along the lines of the laughter of Percy Pringle or Paul Bearer. Spurs keen to offload Giovanni Lo Celso, who's on loan at Villarreal. Spurs could accept an offer of £18 million. That's from Football Insider. Arsenal favorites to sign Yuri Tielemans from Leicester on a free in the summer. Eesh. Manchester United interested in Bayer Leverkusen defender Jeremy Frimpong, but could face competition from Chelsea. Real Madrid looking to bid for Gabriel Jesus next summer, but that's from the three-letter paper. Take that news at your own peril. Forest, Spurs, West Ham, Marseille ready to rekindle their interest in Atalanta and Ukraine midfielder Ruslan Malinovsky. That's from Calcio Mercato as well. Atletico Madrid rejected a €100 million offer from Bayern Munich for João Felix last summer. Three-letter paper also has quotes from Thomas Tuchel saying that his sacking came too soon, and Real Madrid are preparing to offer Spain midfielder Marco Asensio a new contract with his current deal running out in the summer. That is from our friends at Marsa. And so let's see if there's anything else going on in the papers, and if there is anything that we missed there, going more in depth into the English paper runs, once again avoiding the 3 and the 4-letter paper. Daily Mirror, Kieran Trippier has warned Newcastle can still improve as they bid for the top 4. Former Manchester United coach Neil Wood has questioned Eric Ten Hag's decision to throw Alejandro Garnacho into the first team fold. Well, if Neil Wood is not at practice, then he wouldn't necessarily know the why. Daily Express, Chelsea winger Christian Pulisic has been tipped to sign for Newcastle by Eric Wijnaldum. Interesting. Scottish Sun says Lee Griffiths has suggested he could retire from football altogether very soon. Robbie Nielsen from Hearts is challenging his injury-ravaged side to oust Hibs, reclaim third place in the Premier League in the Premiership before the World Cup break. Kenny Dalglish doesn't believe Steven Gerrard would return to the Rangers dugout following his sacking at Aston Villa, but insists whoever's in charge when the next transfer window opens will have to drastically improve the squad. And Celtic target Ryan May has broken his silence on the interest in him and hinted he could be ready for a move in the next transfer window. So that's your other news with what's been going on in the English theater. WSL roundup, Manchester United got a flawless start beating Everton. Spurs put 8 on the board in their match. Marcus Rashford's 100th United goal got the win against helped get the win against West Ham. Police are tracking down the troll who racially abused Reece James. And interesting note from the lower divisions. We'll get into that in just a second. January 2021, he shared racist messages, received deleted social media accounts after leaving the matter in the hands of the Metropolitan Police. He says he gets messages here and there, never really had to face it. It's always the way. Trolls hide behind the keyboards. Whenever I see it, I report it. And so we'll keep an eye on that. Now, out of lower divisions, and John Nason probably will have to keep an eye on this. So Coventry City have said they're increasingly positive tomorrow's game with Blackburn will go ahead at the Coventry Building Stadium Arena, despite the company who owned the stadium being in danger of entering administration by the end of the day. Remember, the rugby club that's attached had to go into administration. The stadium is in administration. So filed a notice of intent to appoint administrators, which gave them 2 weeks to find new investors to avoid them suffering the same fate as Wasps Holding Limited, with a deadline of tonight. And so they remain in dialogue with the EFL regarding the fixture against Blackburn Rovers, keeping Blackburn updated. Club's been placed under a transfer embargo by breaching EFL Regulation 17, which covers Her Majesty tax reporting. Due to postponed fixtures earlier in the season, the club has had financial issues, which have meant a delay in tax payments. And so they, in a statement, following recent cash flow imbalances, I love how folks sit there and say that, cash flow imbalances caused by match postponements, they've reached a time to pay agreement with Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs. So there's that to keep an eye on as well if you dig the lower divisions. Looking at World Cup updates, Ukraine have made an appeal to FIFA to kick out Iran from the World Cup. Ukraine FA Executive Committee decided to appeal to FIFA to ban the nation. They believe Iran is supplying weapons to Russia and also breaking Article 3 and 4 of FIFA statutes, which commit FIFA to respecting human rights and fighting discrimination. Their statement reads, I'm going to blow through it here. Taking into account the media information about the systematic manifestations of human rights violations in Iran, which may violate the principles and norms of the FIFA Charter, taking into account the UN Security Council Resolution 2231 regarding the imposition of sanctions on Iran and the alleged involvement of Iran in the military aggression of the Russian Federation against Ukraine, we appeal to FIFA with a proposal to consider the issue of excluding the Iranian national team from the World Cup. Keep an eye on that. Manchester United playing a friendly with Cadiz during the World Cup break. Players not involved in the tournament will play 7 p.m. GMT on December the 7th. Romelu Lukaku could miss a World Cup after suffering a hamstring injury just 3 weeks out from the tournament. On loan at Inter, would have led the line for Belgium, but Inter now said his condition will be assessed in the coming days. Kevin De Bruyne admits next month's World Cup could be his last. Taking his family to Qatar so his children can see him play at a World Cup for the first time. The 31-year-old played for Belgium when they finished third in Russia 4 years ago, reached the quarterfinals in Brazil 2014. Likely his last chance to be with his national team. So enjoy that one for Kevin De Bruyne. And so Mikel Arteta addressed Bukayo Saka's injury, bad kick, limping. I don't see it further than that. It was both foot and ankle. He got kicked a few times. So England was worried with that as well. So we'll keep an eye on Bukayo Saka going forward. Eric Ten Hag yesterday said his David De Gea's Manchester United future could be considered during the World Cup. Athletic reported De Gea could have to take reduced terms if he's to extend his deal, which expires at the end of the season, with United looking at other goalkeeping options. Ten Hag very, very complimentary in praise of him after the 1-0 win over West Ham at Old Trafford. Everton planning to make a move from Monaco left back Caio Henrique in the January window. Lampard, keen to add depth to his squad, wants to provide Mikalenko with some competition. Frank Kessie, already feeling unsettled at Barcelona, according to Calcio Mercato. Kessie, who's made just a handful of starts for the club since joining on a free from AC Milan, will seek a return to Italy if his situation does not improve. Celtic are in talks with Vissel Kobe over center back Yuki Kobayashi. Brighton have put an $85 million price tag on Moises Caicedo if anybody wants to jump in. Manchester United and Liverpool are among the sides who have shown interest. Picked him up for £4.5 million. It's amazing what happens when you finally place somebody. So there's that. And Everton apparently passed up the opportunity to sign Cristiano Ronaldo for £2 million back in 2002 when he was just a teenager. So there's all of that. So let's see what you guys have been discussing while I was going over the news of the day. David, MLS wants people to watch and need someone to stop the Philly constant fouling by discussion or persistent infringement yellows. The broadcaster said first, have Philly versus NYC. Yeah, broadcaster said first half of Philly NYC was unwatchable. Not the first time. OG. Yeah, ultimate hate watching. You're probably you will be definitely in the majority there. Yeah, and this is also a TV production point. The 32-52 will be enough of a distraction. Casuals may not pay as close attention to the actual game. And then the OG says, and the match is on Fox. I won't have to listen to the ESPN commentators. So that is all of that stuff. Also on the board this morning, what can we watch? So let's get into what we can watch, and if there's any other thoughts that you guys have going forward before we go. Monday, kind of a light day. BN has the Turkish Super League at 1 o'clock in both English and BN Espanol. Başakşehir, Giresunspor. ESPN Plus has La Liga at 4, League One at 4, Segunda Division at 4, and the Swedish Allsvenskan at 2:10 with Norrköping and Djurgården. Brasileiro tonight at 7, and Serie A this afternoon 1:30 and 3:45. So let's get into juice boxes quickly before we go and see what those numbers are. Once again, like I said, it's a Monday, so it's kind of a light schedule. I mentioned the Super League at 1 o'clock, and Sivaspor at home is a favorite. Besiktas here, big favorite for the game that's on BN at 1 o'clock at a -175. Roma's a -114 at Verona. That one is at 1:30. Midtjylland is playing in Denmark if you want to find a VPN to watch that. I just like saying Midtjylland. They were -196 in the composite. You've got activity in Europe to carry you through the early part of the afternoon. And Monza Bologna. Monza's a favorite at home at a +120 at 3:45. The League One match on ESPN Plus. Plymouth Argyle's a -105 hosting Exeter. Elche is a slight favorite at home at 4 in the Liga against Getafe at a +165. You've got Jamaica. You've got Mexico, Liga MX Femenil. Club America is a big home favorite at a -385 hosting Club Tijuana. And 9 and 11 o'clock, your doubleheader after that. Tigres, big favorite at a -588 hosting Toluca. Monterrey at a -189 hosting Pachuca. So Toluca and Pachuca are on the road, and they are both big underdogs. So that is your look at what's going on there. So to recap, League Two Championship in Statesboro later this week, Sunday night on the ESPN Family of Network. South Georgia Tormenta, can they get the double, the lower division double, as Chattanooga Red Bulls come to town? We'll be covering that all later on in the week. You've also got the championship down to 4. On the left-hand side, Tampa Bay visiting Louisville. On the right-hand side, Tampa Bay visiting Louisville out of the East. And in the West, Colorado Springs gets to go to San Antonio. We now have MLS Cup. It is LAFC hosting Philadelphia. We'll try to track down some folks to let you get some insights on those two teams going forward and get you ready for that match this weekend as well. And so that is your rundown of everything on a Monday. And if there's anything that I missed, thanks to all of y'all who keep coming back every single day and want to hear my ramblings and Jarrett's ramblings about anything and everything going on in the sport of soccer. And it's always great to have the conversations that we have with you guys about everything going on. And we'll be back at it again tomorrow. We'll break down everything else, and we'll keep talking about the world of soccer. And if there's anything that we missed today, that's what tomorrow's all about. And then Dylan Butler slated to join us Wednesday as well. And on Thursday, it'll be Thursdays with Nico in the afternoon. We'll have all of our episodic programming working our way through the week. And let me see if I've got, so it's early in the week. So here's the early part. So right now we just have some stuff squared away and figuring out where we need to be and where we're going, all those kinds of things. So trust me, this will get a little bit more messy as we go. But it's a Monday, so we're just getting started. But thanks again, everybody, for hanging out and letting us know what you thought about yesterday. We'll be talking about it again tomorrow, go into more in-depth stuff, talk about news of the day, talk about all those kinds of things. And thanks for all of y'all for hanging out here, as you always do. So since it is the end of the show on a Monday, we'll be back here tomorrow at 9:05, since we believe in Turner time, as we always do. Mucha plata, y'all. Play it safe, everybody. And since it's the end of the show, it means I get to do this. We'll see you tomorrow.